David here with figbootonpens. It seems like lately I've been reviewing quite a few large pens, and I've found that over time I've really been drawn to larger pens, but that doesn't mean that a small pen can't impress me as well. And it's a small pen that I have to share with you today. Not only is it a small pen, but quite possibly it's the pen that gets more use than any other in my collection. And that pen is the Pilot Stargazer, or as it's known in the Japanese market, the Stella 90S. What I'm going to do is go over some of the parts and features of the pen, talk about what I care for, some of the things I don't care for, then we'll provide some measurements, some size comparisons, and then a writing sample. The pen arrives in this box. The sleeve has a little Pilot logo on it, and inside we have a lightweight plastic case. For the most part, Pilot doesn't spend a great deal on their packaging, which is just fine by me. The main purpose of a box is to protect the pen until it gets into the consumer's hands, and this box does the job. And after I've completed this review, then I can get rid of the box. One less thing to store. So inside we have a card which Google Translate has told me that says fountain pen quality guarantee. Then there's the standard use and care guide that Pilot has, and then also included is a proprietary black Pilot ink cartridge. And then we have the pen. This is the Pilot Stargazer. It comes in 4 different colors: black, white, blue, and then this red, which they call ruby red. And each of the pens has a real subtle pearlescent sparkle, which we'll actually take a look at a little bit later. Let's start at the cap. At the end of the cap is flat and then tapers down just a little bit. Then we have a rhodium-plated band which has a rounded ridge on it, which transitions into the clip, which appears to be a separate piece. The clip is relatively small, but then again, this is a rather small pen. It does taper down to a point and is very functional. It has a nice bit of spring to it. Then we have the cap band, which has 2 small grooves which are filled with black paint, and the band says Pilot Japan on one side and Stella 90S on the other. For the US market, the Stargazer doesn't have the name of the pen on the band. It only says Pilot Japan. There is a very small step down to the barrel, which is straight for about 1 inch and then tapers down to another band similar to the one on the cap. I mentioned it earlier, but this pen has a really nice pearlescent sparkle. I really like the subtlety of the sparkle as well. It's not too much in your face. There's something a bit odd that relates to the end pieces of this pen. The pieces at the end of the cap and the barrel match the color of the rest of the pen, as you can see here. And this is the same with the white version of this pen as well as the black. But on the blue version, the end pieces are black as opposed to blue, so they don't match, which just, in my opinion, looks a little bit off. Now, I have a suspicion that for some reason they actually had to change the design of this pen for some reason, because when you see some older reviews or some older pictures of the pen, it did have blue pieces on the end, but it seems like all of the pictures now on sites, now they have black on the end. Not sure why the change was made, but it's just a bit of an odd design decision to have one version a little bit different like that. The cap snaps off to reveal what is really one of the highlights of the pen, which is this 14 karat gold rhodium plated Pilot number 3 nib. This nib is just amazing. First of all, I really like the look of Pilot nibs, and as I'll demonstrate in the writing sample, this nib's performance is just outstanding. One of the downsides is that it is available in only fine and medium. And here's a look at the plastic feed. The section begins with a flared band, which is part of the capping mechanism. With the snap cap, unless it's magnetized like some Visconti models and some other pens, you have a choice really pretty much of having the mechanism here at the nib end of the section or the barrel end of the section. Most folks have it here at the end of at the nib end of the section. Then there is a 3-tiered transition to the barrel, and as can be imagined, the section on this pen is a bit thin, but it is comfortable. It's not the longest section, but if you find your fingers resting on the barrel transition, it's really not sharp at all. I find the pen to be too small for me to use unposted. It's not unreasonably small, but I find it more comfortable to write with when it's posted. And it does post well and secure. The pen is made of metal, of brass, I believe, and for being a small pen, it has a decent amount of weight to it, more than you would really think. It's heavier than pens even significantly larger than it, such as like the Lamy All-Star or the Platinum 3776, the TWSBI Diamond 580, and even the Lamy 2000. It weighs more than any of those pens. This is a cartridge converter pen. It will take either proprietary Pilot ink cartridges or a Pilot converter. It comes with a Con 50, but can also use the Con 20. However, it will not take the Con 70. And due to the metal features of the pen, that you really can't convert it into an eyedropper. I'd say one of the downsides is the Con 50 doesn't hold a ton of ink, but I like to change my inks often, and so it doesn't bother me that much. In the US, the Stargazer retails for around $150, which is a lot for a small pen, but it's well worth it. This is a really solid, well-made pen that performs really, really well. But here's the twist. As I mentioned previously, the pen is marketed as the Stella 90S in the Japanese markets, and you could really easily find this pen up on Amazon and other sites under the Stella 90S name, and the price is significantly less, around $85. So everything is identical about the two pens, other than what I mentioned about the cap band. And I would recommend this purchase at $150, but at $85, this pen is very hard to pass up. Now, for me, this is not a daily writer. It's not a pen that I take to work with me, but as I mentioned in the top of the review, that this pen might be just the one that in my collection that gets the most use out of it, because it lives on my desk. Typically sitting at the top of my keyboard. And this is what I grab when I need to write a quick note or a quick to-do list. It doesn't take up much space. It's really solid enough that it's not going to get damaged if it gets banged around a little bit. And when it writes, it performs really, really well. So there you have the Pilot Stargazer or Stella 90S. If you're considering other compact pocket pens like the Prera, the Pilot Prera, the Kaweco Sport, or even like the TWSBI Mini, which are each kind of around in that $50 range, spending the additional $35 is well worth it in this case. You get a pen with outstanding build quality, an unbelievable gold nib, and it's really tough finding really good gold nibs in the $85 range. So now it's time for some measurements, some size comparisons, and then a writing sample. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Pilot Stargazer. Here it is with a Classic Pens LB5. Then here it is with a Visconti Millionaire. And then, just to be comical, here it is with a review I did last week of the Danny Trio Genkai. And you can see that is a considerably larger pen. And then in regard to some pens that are more along the lines of this size, here it is with the Pilot Metropolitan, here it is with a Kaweco Sport, and here it is with a TWSBI Mini. So you can see that it compares a little bit more favorably in size to those pens. So here we go with the writing sample for the Pilot Stargazer / Stella 90S. And this is a medium 14K nib. And the ink that I'm using here today is KWZ Azure number 4. This is what the ink looks like. It's a nice deep blue. I kind of find it a little bit similar to the Bondi blue. And here it is in comparison to Konpeki. It's just a little bit darker than Kompeki. This is an ink that is made in Poland, and it comes in these bottles, which are nice bottles. I only have one of their inks, but they have a lot of nice colors, and I'll probably be picking up more in the near future. So here we go with the writing sample. This is a really, really nice nib that, as I mentioned, it is 14K. It is very, very smooth, but it's, very responsive as well, with a nice bit of feedback. It's not necessarily something I would describe as buttery smooth, but without much pressure, you can get a decent amount of line variation in here. And in regard to ink flow, it's a decently wet pen, as you could see here. And then in regard to reverse writing, not much going on there. You can see it was rather sharp, and then it kind of caught in the paper and flicked some ink there. But in regard to fast writing, the feed has no problems whatsoever keeping up. So here we have the Pilot Stargazer / Stella 90S. This isn't just an outstanding small pen, it's just a good pen in general, and one that I really highly recommend. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.